Welcome. Today I'm going to be talking about the chain rule, which is used in Calculus 1. Now, here in a few seconds is a summary of this video. So first I'm going to show an animation and the formula for the chain rule. Next, I'm going to work through some practice problems, and finally I will provide you with a practice problem so you can check your progress on this topic. Alright, so after that delightful animation, the final output was this formula. So that is f prime of g of x times g prime of x. Now, what does all this mean? Well, kind of like we saw in the animation, we're going to put x into function g, and then we're going to put function g into the derivative of function f, and finally we will multiply all of this by g prime of x. Now, why are we doing all this work? Well, we're doing this to find the derivative of this composite function. And in this composite function, we see that g of x is going to be our inner function, alright, and f is going to be our outer function. So what this formula for the chain rule is saying is we're going to do the derivative of the outer function times the inner function, and then multiply this whole thing by the derivative of the inner function. And in the problems I will show, sometimes the inner and outer functions are given, and other times you have to do a little more work to find them on your own. But this is why we do the chain rule. It is to find the derivative of a composite function, which is basically just when we have x within the function g and g of x within the function f. And we want to find the derivative of this, so we use the chain rule, right, which has this formula. Find the derivative of this function. Alright, so our job is to find the outer and inner functions. Alright, so we have t of x is equal to sine of 2x squared. So the outer function, which we'll call f of x, is going to be sine x. And then we have the inner function we'll call g of x. That's going to be 2x squared. Now, the derivative of the outer function is going to be, we'll call it f prime of x. That's going to be cosine of x, right? And the derivative of the inner function, g prime of x, will be 4x. Now, let's plug this into the chain rule formula. So we're going to start with g of x. That's going to be 2x squared. And this is going to be combined with the derivative of the outer function, so cosine x. So essentially, 2x squared is going to take the place of x. Okay, and so all we have to write now is cosine before it, and all of this will be multiplied by the derivative of the inner function, 4x. Right, so let's multiply this, and this is going to be 4x times cosine of 2x squared. Now we're going to find the derivative of h of x. So h of x is equal to the square root of x squared plus 1. So our job now is to find the inner and outer functions and find the derivatives of those inner and outer functions so that we can use the chain rule formula. So we're going to count the outer function f of x and the inner function g of x. Alright, so what is the outer function and what is the inner function? Well, let's take a look at this. What do you think? Turns out that the outer function is going to be the square root of x, and the inner function will be x squared plus 1. You can tell because if you replace x with x squared plus 1, you would get this function. And so this makes sense that the outer function is square root of x, and the inner function is x squared plus 1. Now let's find the derivatives of these. We're going to find the derivative of the outer function. And to do that, let's write the square root of x in this form. So x to the 1/2 is the same as saying x squared. Alright, that's just the rule of exponents. And here, if we take the derivative of x to the 1/2, we get 1/2 x to the negative 1/2 is the derivative of the outer function. Now we're going to take the derivative of the inner function, and so we will take the derivative of x squared plus 1, which is going to be 2x. Now let's use the chain rule formula. The chain rule formula says we should write whatever g of x is, the g of x is equal to x squared plus 1, and we're going to put the derivative of the outer function beside it. So if we replace x with this part, then all we have left is to write negative 1/2 as the exponent and 1/2 as the coefficient. And then after that, we will multiply by 2x, or the derivative of the inner function. All right, and now we can simplify this. So essentially what this is saying is 2x all over 2 times the square root of x squared plus 1. Okay, so when we have a negative fractional exponent, that indicates a square root function in the denominator. And we can simplify this by canceling out the 2's, and we are left with x over the square root of x squared plus 1, which is also equal to x times x to the 2 plus 1, and this is raised to negative 1/2. So either this or this can be the answer that appears on your test or exam. In this problem, it says to find the derivative of the composite function of f of g of x. Now we're given that f of x is equal to x to the 3, and we're given that g of x is equal to 2x squared. And we're also given the chain rule formula. All right, so we're going to take this as the inner function and this as the outer function. Okay, so I'll write a note here. This is the outer, and this is going to be the inner. Now let us find the derivatives of the outer and inner functions. So let's do derivative of the outer function. That's going to be f prime of x. So the derivative of x to the 3 is just 3x squared. This one over here is going to be equal to 4x. And so now we will apply the chain rule formula, which says we need to write g of x. So g of x is 2x squared, and we'll put that in place of the x in the derivative of the outer function. So here's the derivative of the outer function. We'll replace x with 2x squared, and all we have left are the numbers to put here and here. Now we're going to multiply this by the derivative of the inner function, so the derivative of g of x, which is 4x. Okay, so now I'm going to simplify this by saying this is going to be 3 times 2x squared times 2x squared, and then this will all be multiplied by 4x. And so in here, we are going to get a value of 4x to the 4. And so 3 times 4x to the 4 times 4x is going to be equal to 12x to the 4 times 4x, which is going to be 48x to the 5th. All right, and so this is going to be the answer for the derivative of the composite function. All right, so now it's time to check your progress on this topic, and you're going to be determining the value for the derivative of k of x. Okay, so k of x is going to be equal to x squared plus 7x plus 2, all raised to the 4th power. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.